A weekend looms, and is there a second stimulus deal, or are talks off? Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE Afternoons. Hope you're great and safe. The weekend's here. We made it through the week. Ready and excited for the weekend. Are you? I mean, our stimulus checks are coming tomorrow. Our hazard pay is coming tomorrow. Our FPUC is arriving tomorrow. Who we're kidding. Nothing is coming tomorrow except a lot of hot air. As minutes ago, we learned a couple of things, and this is the great news. Members of Congress are not going to be coming back because no one is going to be re-electing this group after talks fell apart. I have the breaking news for you minutes ago. This is Afternoons LALATE every day at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. Starts with a check, which is this video, then goes to hazard pay, FPUC, and finally rent assistance. Boy, it is some week, and there's a couple things we know coming into this afternoon, which is really great news. One, we know that members of Congress of this group are not coming back because no one's going to re-elect them. And two, we know that you were right in calling Steve Mnuchin a liar, because he is. Minutes ago, Steve Mnuchin flip-flopped again, as did Mark Meadows, as did Mitch McConnell. Steve Mnuchin had told News with Nancy Pelosi that he would stay around. Well, let's make it clear. Steve Mnuchin told News that he and Nancy, it was not Nancy talking, it was him talking, that he and Nancy would stick around until Friday and get this deal done. Well, they met Friday morning, they came out of the negotiations, and Steve Mnuchin said this. Said he's not coming back to the table. Sayonara, he said. I'm not coming back unless the Democrats change their tune to the pandemic relief. He said him and Meadows will be back here at any time when they listen to new proposals, but we're not coming back now. Adios, he said. Wow. So much for him and his representations. Last week he said the deal was going to be done last week. This week he said the deal was going to be done this Friday and everyone's going to stay in place until the deal is done and they would accept whatever deal it is, whether it's good or bad. Untrue. Mitch McConnell is also, proving his lack of veracity across the board. He said he was going to keep the Senate in session with members still in D.C., in town, until this gets done. Not anymore. He says they can all go home to the vacation homes and put their feet in the jacuzzi and sip their Mai Tai while the rest of Americans eat and struggle to get food on the table, cannot make rent, and don't have electricity and water. It's really crazy. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what's wrong with these people? Let me go to the details. In recording today's video, it's sort of a confusing thing to decide whether to do the front story or the back story, because the back story is the big story now. The inability of these people to get an agreement. But let me go over the front story. What were agreed upon and what was not agreed upon? Okay, what was agreed upon was the check. You were to get a second, should I use current tense or should I use past tense? Well, they had agreed you were going to get a check, a $1,200 second stimulus check. The check would arrive to you in mid-August. Forget that date now. If you had set up electronic delivery, and late August, if you were set up for paper check, forget that date as well. And I'm saying forget it if it's based upon what's happening, at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. These people are so nutso. I mean, I would not put it across them to come up with a deal at 6 o'clock, 4 hours from now. But I'm just telling you where we are today at 2 o'clock. They had an agreement about $600 a week FPUC for 1 week, but couldn't get the extension of how many weeks about it. And I have more about that in a second. Nancy Pelosi clearly indicated that the parties were agreeing upon calculations and numbers, but not duration. Like, how many weeks are we going to pay these things? Rent eviction and rent moratorium and rent forgiveness and mortgage forbearance all agreed upon to ensure you're not thrown out of your home. There was no agreement for rent grants, but there was absolutely agreement for rent evictions. There was an agreement about student debt repayment, that you were not obligated to pay it during this pandemic. They're going to hold off on that until next year. There was an agreement about the post office, to give more money to the post office and their employees to make sure that the workplace is safe. There was an agreement about more PPP loan money, which a lot of viewers need. They need it for their businesses. There was no agreement on multiple weeks of FPUC at $600 a week. We know that. I mean, we clearly know that. There was an offer for $400 a week. We don't know how many weeks they wanted to offer $400 for. There was no agreement on rent grants, how much money they were going to pay you for free rent to make up for the inability to make rent because of the pandemic. There was no agreement upon debt forgiveness for student debts. Basically, people who couldn't make student debt payments, they were asking to forgive the debt. This is a Democratic proposal. The Republicans would not accept it. There was no agreement from the Democrats to Mitch McConnell's liability insurance provision. There was no agreement to that federal building, $3 billion. There was no agreement to that insane meal deal where you deduct your meals at your swanky restaurants and brunches with Mitch. The Democrats said, go buy your own damn meal. There was no agreement about the travel deduction that you could just deduct everything you wanted to off of your taxes because everyone's making so much darn money. Yeah, sure. And there was no agreement about the airlines bailout. Billions and billions of dollars to the airlines who continually lay off people and don't retain them. We did not know, however, certain things about all those and above. We did not know if the dependents were going to get a $500 check or $1,200 checks. There was indications that they would. This is despite the fact that we did know that everyone on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and Railroad benefits was going to get a check. That was great news. We did not know the future of child support and the stimulus check. The Democrats had proposed child support would not be taken out of the second stimulus check, which is different than the first one. The Republicans proposed it would be taken out of it. We had no indication about hazard pay, even though there were suggestions that it was going to pass because we had no opposition from the Republicans. And we clearly had no disagreement about state funds. These funds that go to states to pay you, their employees, and things like that. The differences on how far they were on the deals, it really is inconsistent. Mitch McConnell said they were apart by $1 trillion. They initially were apart by $2 trillion. Nancy Pelosi, in a quote I'm getting to in a second, she said they were apart by a few $100 billion, which is a lot less. So I don't know where the progress was made. I mean, that's really great news, but I don't know where. There were concessions made. The Democrats made concessions on PPP in the post office. The Republicans made concessions about the check, FPUC, student loan debt, post office, and state funds. Yeah, you see how I am just guzzling the information today. But then that was the front story. That's the most important thing for you to know. Your money, your funds, when it's coming, how it's coming, when am I getting my money, LALATE? I can't deal with this. And I'm here to keep you calm. I'm here to keep you inspired and motivated. And I know this is a nail biter. At this point, it's no longer a nail biter. It's like we're eating our hands off of our limbs because it's just insane. Now, let me give you the backstory, which is really become the front story. As you know, these people have negotiated in a room, four of them, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mark Meadows, and Steve Mnuchin, for about a week. And they have not conducted themselves civil. They have been name-calling through the press. And so where was it this afternoon as I sit here? Where is it now as I sit here at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time? They're going into another meeting this afternoon. This ultimately will be the last meeting. It's strange because they said they met this morning and they said they're not meeting again. So I don't understand why they said they're not meeting again, but then they also say they're meeting again. I don't understand it. But they're either meeting again this afternoon or not meeting again. But either way, they're indicating this is the last meeting. They met this morning, and that President Trump is vowing to take executive order based upon lack of activity today. President Trump has not been happy with Mark Meadows. I mean, how can you be? He's not a good chief of staff. He should not have been this president's chief of staff. He doesn't match this president and his choices. The president reportedly, according to even Meadows, was calling around the clock in each of the negotiations, urging Meadows to get it done, damn it, and Meadows couldn't get it done. Mnuchin's a very nice guy, but he's a little bit, calm, and Meadows is on the opposite, and he wasn't getting it done. The president was very frustrated with Meadows, as any president would be. This is not the type of person to have in the room, was Mark Meadows, and I ultimately believe that's why this deal's not done, is because of Mark Meadows. Now, Mitch McConnell is a whole other ball wax. Steve Mnuchin and Nancy could have gotten this done, but I think Mark Meadows is really the problem. Then the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, spoke about the matter this morning. It's going to take us a little bit of time to finalize these and process them. That's good talk. I mean, that's the way you correctly deal with the situation. You say it in a positive manner. You don't disparage the other people negotiating with you. And so Steve Mnuchin has it correct. But Chuck Schumer left the meeting and called it disappointing. Nancy Pelosi said, I told them come back when you're ready to give a higher number. I don't like that language because that's ultimately the language we heard from Mitch McConnell yesterday, which he said, and here's a very, very annoying thing to report, is that he said he's going to let members of the Senate go home. Go home. Go home. And I'll call you if Nancy has a better deal. Otherwise, just stay home. Wow. I mean, it's their job to get things done. Why are they going home? Why? To get to themselves reelected and get some nice lobbyists to give them a nice chicken fish prime rib lunch? Why are they going home? Get your work done. I mean, it's like, we don't go home when we have work to do. Why are you going home? How far apart are they? It really is not clear. Pelosi said she could cut spending by making some programs end earlier than promised. And I think that really is great news because I've said to you all along that the amounts of money appear not to be the issue. Well, how do I say it? The weekly amounts of money or the monthly amounts of money don't seem to be the issue for the Republicans. They just don't like how big everything is. That when we look at the total tab, it's too big. That's why she called them deficit hawks. That they want to make it, a few weeks or a month or two. They don't want to make it all the way to January 2021. Now, understand Nancy's proposal was more tailored than other Democrats. It was Elizabeth Warren who wanted to have rent eviction moratoriums into middle of next year. I mean, there was those type of things. The problem I don't have for you, and I fully admit my inability to report this, is we don't know when Mitch, maybe that's his new nickname, when Mitch and Nancy are saying that the amounts are too far apart. What part of the bill is holding it up? Is it because FPUC is too much money? Is it because hazard pay is too much money? I don't know. And so I really, sitting here, I know what's happening with individual parts, but I don't know what derailed it. She did write a letter, so I have the letter. She did write a letter to me. I wish she would. I would have written her back a letter, heart, XOXO, but this is what her letter said. She wrote a letter to her colleagues Friday that says, the Democrats aim to put $75 billion in COVID testing and treatment, while the GOP bill included $15 billion. Okay, so they're about $60 billion apart. Pelosi wrote the GOP offered $150 billion for states and municipalities, far less than the $915 billion the Democrats proposed. Okay, so that's a big one. I've been reporting that since last week. This is money to states to give it to ensure that they have COVID-19 assistance and grant money. It's very important. I mean, this is... Even Republican states want this. This is a big issue. Whenever I talk about, grant money in New York and grant money in LA, that's because these governors asked for this money. So the Republicans proposed $150 billion. She proposed $950 billion. Now, I'm going to be devil's advocate because that's my job here. I'm going to say, well, hey, why don't you just give the states a certain amount of money for now, for a few months, and then have them come back and ask for more money then? I mean, why hold up everything about states for, to 2021 when you just give some states some money now? Pelosi then called for money for food, water, and utility assistance, more money than the GOP proposed. A lot of people ask me about food stamps. I don't know the numbers, and Nancy clearly does not delineate how much is they apart. And then she said the Democrats want to secure more concessions on ensuring a complete census and safe voting. Okay, that's not a financial number. So it's really not clear, even from Nancy's document, why they are a trillion apart, a few billion apart, and really what's holding it up. You can see my frustration because I don't know what's going on that is stalling. I understand they want certain things. I understand they like $600 a week of FPUC, but that's not what's holding it up. In a joint statement, Pelosi and Schumer said the economic recovery spurred by the investments Congress had passed and the losing steam and more investments are still urging the needed protection for lives and livelihoods of Americans. On Friday, Mnuchin said the Trump administration has not received compromise offers on unemployment insurance or municipal relief. I've been reporting that for a week. I said Nancy is not going to move on $600 a week. It's just not going to happen. The Republicans have moved from zero to $100 to $200 a week. They allegedly offer $400 a week. I don't know how many weeks it is, and ultimately that's important. You know, if you offer $400 a week for 1 week, I don't see that as a deal. Someone in the comments said, "Hey, Nancy should have just taken the offer." What, an offer for 1 week? What's 1 week? One $400 check? I mean, when you're owed 2 weeks past due now, I mean, that doesn't solve anything. Not to say $400 a week for multiple weeks wouldn't, but $400 for 1 week wouldn't work. So then comes this executive order crapola. And it's not about him. I'm talking about the process. The president has no authority to issue an executive order for anything but eviction moratoriums, and he should. I've been reporting that for over a week. The president has absolute clear authority to issue an eviction moratorium executive order and mortgage forbearance executive order right away. It would be absolutely wonderful. He has no authority to order FPUC to be sent out. He cannot order anything to be sent out from the Treasury as to money to anyone. That it requires an act of Congress. The law is very clear. And so what's going to happen? Schumer had a statement about this, and Schumer's statement is, I'm glad he said it because I was going to say it. Schumer says any executive order will leave millions of people out, it will be litigated, and it won't be effective, and things will get worse. Yes, if the president, for example, 20 minutes after this video goes live, says, I have an executive order for $600, FPUC, whatever, literally the next minute, the attorney general of the state, of several states, are going to file litigation right away. They're going to get a temporary injunction. It's going to be issued. It's not going to be sent out, and no one is going to get relief. So I don't know why Mark Meadows is wasting his oxygen levels and talking about executive orders for FPUC. It can't be done. And it's not like I'm saying it. Every single person is saying it, and I think the president understands this. The day started with likelihood that they would reach a solution. We will find a solution. We will, Pelosi told CNBC. We'll have agreement. We will. And that's what she said yesterday. So the backstory is suddenly the front story. What are we going to do, LALATE? Where are you going to go? Are you going to leave us? Well, here's a personal message. People have asked me over the last couple days when we thought this was going to get an agreement today and that the bill was going to become law on Tuesday, be approved by the Senate on Tuesday, and the president was going to sign it to law on Wednesday. We thought we were going to get out of the woodworks as the wind really picks up. Maybe that's sort of an omen. And I said, hey, I'm not leaving because there's going to be a lot of issues about ensuring you get your checks. I have to watch that you get your checks, that you do your non-filer or filer. I have to help my hazard pay viewers. The hazard pay viewers are going to have to ensure that they get their hazard pay for their employees. The employees are not going to apply. We're going to have to talk about what's essential work. I knew there's a lot of work for me. But here, the Hot Mess Express is literally stopped on the tracks. So I'm not going anywhere. Bottom line, I'm not going anywhere. I might run out of purple shirts because people keep on asking, how many damn purple shirts do you have? Yeah, it became, I defaulted to darker colored shirts because the lighting is better. And someone said wear green when the bill is passed. I tried to tape once with green and I literally looked like Gumby. Maybe I'll do that for a laugh if the bill gets passed. But other than running out of purple shirts, that is the only concern I have at the moment, separate apart from the big elephant in the room, which is we don't have a deal. Ultimately, I am staying here. I'm updating the stories daily and hourly. And coming up next on Afternoons LALATE is hazard pay, then FPUC, and rent eviction notice. As always, please go to the front of this channel. There's a subscribe button. Please hit that subscribe button, and then there's a little bell next to it, an alert button. Please hit it. I'm not hitting it for, because I want you to touch things on the channel. I'm saying it because the situation is so wacko, and things are coming out of this situation that are more wacko than I would have ever thought. And so something may literally happen in the middle of the night, and especially if it's something as important as eviction moratorium. Perhaps there's an executive order on eviction moratorium coming out at 10 o'clock tonight Eastern Standard Time. I will literally drop it in the messages. You will see it, and if you are facing eviction, you'll be, damn, I'm saved, LALATE. It's that level of importance that we stay as a family. As always, stay happy and stay motivated and stay of LA for more.